Ada was only 17. Her father had died years ago, leaving her mother with 3 children to raise alone. Life was not kind to them. They lived in a small mud house at the edge of the village, a place where rain leaked through the roof and food was never certain. Her mother worked herself to the bone, doing petty jobs just to put food on the table. There were days when the family went to bed hungry. Yet, even in the middle of this hardship, Ada carried a dream in her heart. She wanted to become a nurse. She often said that if she could study hard enough and wear that white uniform one day, she would save her family from poverty. She wanted to be the one to heal others because she knew too well what it meant to suffer without help. But poverty does not only take food from the stomach, it takes respect from the lips of neighbors. People whispered about their family. They said the children were suffering because their father had gone too soon. They said Ada's mother could not control her children. Every move Ada made was watched, every mistake exaggerated. Then, slowly, Ada began to feel changes in her body. She was tired more often, her appetite strange, her mornings difficult. She thought it was just stress from school and house chores, but the older women in the compound noticed. The whispers grew louder. People began to point fingers, calling her wayward, accusing her of things she was not ready to admit even to herself. Ada's world was already fragile, and soon it was about to break completely. Ada's secret could no longer be hidden. The truth came out like fire that spreads through dry grass, fast, uncontrollable, and impossible to quench. She was pregnant. When her mother found out, her face carried more than shock. It carried disappointment, anger, shame, and the kind of frustration that comes from years of struggle without relief. The woman who had carried the weight of the family on her shoulders now saw her daughter as the one who had brought disgrace into the home. Voices rose that evening. The neighbors listened through cracked walls and open windows as Ada's mother shouted. Her words pierced Ada's heart deeper than any knife could. She called her reckless, a shame to the family name. She asked how she could bring another mouth to feed into a house where even the ones alive were already starving. Ada tried to explain. She cried. She begged. But her mother's ears were closed. Poverty had hardened her heart, and grief had made her quick to anger. In that moment, all she saw in Ada was failure. Then, with trembling hands, Ada's mother pushed her toward the door. Her voice shook, but her decision was firm. "You cannot stay here," she said. "You have brought shame on me. Go. Leave." Ada stood at the doorway, her small bag in hand, tears running down her face. She looked back at the house she had called home all her life, the faces of her younger siblings staring at her with confusion and fear. But there was no mercy, no second chance. The door closed behind her, and Ada stepped into the night alone. The cold air wrapped around her. The streets were quiet, but not safe. With nowhere to go, Ada wandered until she found an uncompleted building. The walls were bare, the floor rough, and the roof open to the sky. That night, she lay on the hard ground, her body shaking with both fear and sorrow. She thought of her dream of becoming a nurse. She thought of her father, long gone, and wondered if he would have allowed this to happen. And she thought of the child growing inside her. How could she protect it when she could not even protect herself? Still, Ada refused to give up hope completely. Somewhere deep inside her broken heart, a small voice whispered that her story was not finished yet. Days turned into weeks, and Ada remained in that uncompleted building. She survived on little, sometimes scraps offered by strangers, sometimes nothing at all. Her clothes grew dirty, her body weak, but her spirit clung stubbornly to life. Every night she prayed silently, asking for one more chance, for someone, anyone, to see her. And then, her prayer was answered in the most unexpected way. In another part of the city, a man named Agaba had made it his mission to help the forgotten. He was a social media personality, known not for scandals or flashy cars, but for the simple act of kindness. He walked the streets with his camera, meeting the poor, the abandoned, the homeless. He gave them food, shelter, and dignity. His followers online admired him, and together they contributed to lift people out of poverty. On one of those days, Agaba's footsteps led him to Ada's hiding place. At first, she was startled. When he asked why she was there, Ada tried to hide her face. Shame was a heavy burden, and she was too used to judgment. But Agaba did not judge her. He listened, patiently, kindly, and when she broke down, confessing her story through tears, he placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke words she had not heard in a long time. "Your mistake is not the end of your life," he told her. "You are more than your pain. You are more than this moment." He recorded her story and shared it with the world, not to embarrass her, but to inspire compassion. And compassion came pouring in. People across the internet were moved. They saw a young girl abandoned by her own mother, yet still holding on to a dream. Donations flowed in. Words of encouragement flooded the comments. Strangers, who had never met Ada, decided she was worth saving. Soon, Ada was taken out of the uncompleted building. She was given clothes, a safe place to stay, food to eat. For the first time in months, she slept on a real bed, her stomach full, her heart a little lighter. And that was only the beginning. Agaba did not just rescue her from the street. He opened the door to a new life. Through the generosity of his followers, Ada was placed on scholarship. Her dream of becoming a nurse, which had once seemed impossible, was placed back into her hands. As she held the scholarship letter, tears blurred her vision. She whispered to herself, "I will not waste this chance. I will not fail." From that day, Ada's life began to change, not overnight, but step by step. Ada stepped into a new chapter of her life with courage she never thought she had. The scholarship paid her school fees, bought her books, and gave her the chance to sit in a classroom again. But the journey was not easy. Every morning, she woke up before dawn to care for her baby before rushing to lectures. While other students had families to lean on, Ada had only herself and the child who depended on her. Many nights she read by candlelight after feeding her baby, her eyes heavy with sleep but her determination unshaken. Her classmates admired her. Some whispered that she would never make it, but Ada proved them wrong. She worked harder than anyone else, and slowly her dream began to take shape. Agaba, the man who found her, became more than a helper. He became a mentor. He would visit from time to time, reminding her that she was not alone, reminding her that thousands of people out there were rooting for her success. Years passed, and Ada grew stronger. She balanced motherhood and academics with grace, though her heart still carried scars from her mother's rejection. But instead of bitterness, she turned her pain into motivation. She told herself that one day she would rise high enough to show her mother that her life had meaning. Finally, the day of graduation arrived. Ada stood tall in her gown, her child smiling beside her, now old enough to understand what that moment meant. When her name was called as the best graduating student in nursing, the hall erupted in applause. Ada wept openly, remembering the nights she cried in that uncompleted building, the days she nearly gave up. She held her certificate close and whispered, "This is for every girl who was told she would never make it." After graduation, Ada's life changed in ways she had only dared to imagine. She was offered a job at one of the best hospitals in the city. Her salary was good, her reputation even better. Patients admired her kindness, her colleagues respected her brilliance. She saved wisely, invested carefully, and within a few years, Ada bought her own house. It was beautiful, spacious, filled with laughter and peace. Her child grew up in comfort, never knowing the hunger or cold Ada once endured. But while Ada rose, her family back in the village sank deeper into hardship. Her mother, still struggling to feed the remaining children, worked odd jobs long past the age her body could handle. The siblings dropped out of school, one after the other, because there was no money to continue. Their little mud house grew weaker with time, until it could barely keep out the rain. The neighbors who once mocked Ada's mother now pitied her. They would shake their heads and say, If only she had not sent her daughter away. Maybe things would have been different. And indeed, things were very different. One evening, as Ada looked through old photos of her father, a wave of longing swept over her. She had built a new life, yes, but a piece of her heart still belonged to the family she left behind. No matter what had happened, they were still her blood. So, Ada decided to find them. With the help of Agaba, she traced her way back to the small village where her story began. When she arrived, she almost didn't recognize the place. The house was smaller than she remembered, weaker, more broken. She knocked softly, and after a long pause, the door opened. Her mother stood there, aged beyond her years. Her back was bent, her eyes dim, her face lined with the marks of suffering. At first, she looked at Ada as if she were a stranger. But then, when Ada spoke her name, something shifted. The old woman's eyes widened, her lips trembled, and tears began to fall. Ada fell to her knees before her mother. "Mama, it's me. It's Ada. I am alive, and I am here." The old woman began to weep, her frail hands shaking as she reached for her daughter. My child, I thought I lost you forever." In that moment, years of pain melted into tears. Ada did not remind her mother of the rejection. She did not demand an apology. Instead, she embraced her, because forgiveness was the only medicine strong enough to heal them both. From that day forward, Ada took her mother and siblings into her home. She gave them food, clothing, and comfort. She enrolled her younger siblings back in school and made sure her mother received the care she needed. The house that once echoed with loneliness now rang with laughter again. Ada's child grew up surrounded not just by love, but by family restored. And whenever Ada told her story, she never spoke of bitterness. She only said, "Life taught me that rejection is not the end. Sometimes, it is only the beginning of a greater journey." And forgiveness, no matter how hard, is the key that opens the door to peace. Dear listener, what would you have done if you were in Ada's shoes? Would you forgive, or would you walk away forever? Because sometimes, the very people who push us away are the ones destiny has prepared us to save.